Lots of people have heard of Oculus Rift and are aware that you can play Quake 2 on that virtual reality headset. But what people don't seem to be aware of is that decades prior, there was an earlier form of virtual reality which also integrated Quake 2 called Quake II. Have you guys ever heard of the cave like virtual reality for Quake 2, where it's projected into like a corner of your room, and you're like,
Wait, what?
No, I didn't.
It was around like 2000.
What is it called?
Oh my god.
It was called Quake
Oh,
2.
I'm screwed.
What's it called?
Quake 2.
I'm screwed.
You're cutting it out.
These images are memories of long forgotten dreams. Will we ever be able to understand the vision of the artists across such an abyss of time?
I got a really good feeling about this.
The cave is collapsing.
No cave.
What?
Quake is a recreation of the popular PC game for the cave. And the cave is a room-sized virtual environment where the user steps into a room where every wall is a screen and there's even graphics on the floor beneath their feet. The very first time that I saw the cave, I immediately thought that this is the ultimate gaming platform. And so I wanted to show just how compelling a PC game could become if it was used together with this kind of technology.
Caves became the fashion among VR researchers in the 1990s when headsets failed to take off as a popular piece of equipment. Here, you could literally be inside the virtual environment without wearing anything more than a pair of stereoscopic or 3D glasses. Will this make virtual reality more popular?
In the future, I think gaming is going to be the killer application for virtual reality. It's going to be the application that makes technology mainstream. So when people find out that this kind of environment is out there, they're going to want it. And that's what's going to push virtual reality to become cheaper and more affordable and available to ordinary people. I can foresee a room in the house dedicated as a cave. Or perhaps every room in the house will have active displays on the walls, and any room in the house can become a cave. What do you think?
Paul Rajlich is a research programmer at the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, which occupies space at the Beckman Institute. Rajlich took the computing power at his disposal and in his spare time ported a virtual reality version of Quake II to this system. The demo is not a true Quake II client, but it is quite playable and shows how compelling the game becomes with life-size stereo graphics. It also demonstrates the advantages of head-tracked perspective. If you want to look down, look down. If you want to crouch, crouch. You can even get on the floor and peek around corners. The input device, called a wand, is also tracked. From your perspective, the gun appears where the wand is and has the correct orientation. All you do is point where you want to shoot and press a button. This is the original cave at the National Center for Supercomputing Applications at the University of Illinois. It was the second cave in the world. It was rather clumsy as pictured, but had a brand new machine running it, and the performance was good. The machine, the SGI Onyx 2 Reality Monster, had 12 processors and 4 $100,000 graphics cards. The cave is a $1 million state-of-the-art virtual reality system. Imagine a room where the walls are display surfaces, including the floor beneath your feet. Everywhere you look, there are high-resolution graphics. You wear LCD stereo shutter glasses. that make the graphical objects appear all around you. It's similar to a 3D IMAX movie, except that it's not a movie. It is completely interactive and responds to you in real time.
As I move around the environment, I see the objects in this environment from different viewpoints. Here I'm seeing it from the front, and over here I'm seeing, for instance, this mannequin from the side. And combined with the stereo information, this object is very solid, hanging out in space here, right in front of my eyes.
There was an X-Files episode called First Person Shooter that featured a VR game storyline complete with an action game's big-barreled guns, tanks, and plenty of shooting. In the episode, Mulder became trapped with digital foes until Scully rescued him with a machine gun. Although images of virtual reality have pervaded our pop culture since the late 90s, the full implementation of VR is still the stuff of dreams. What follows is Paul telling the story of QUAKE II in his own words. The first thing that I thought of when I saw the cave was, this is the ultimate gaming platform. I knew somebody had to do it, so why not me? Really, there are several reasons why I decided to do it. Today's games have very rich environments. We cave developers don't have the resources or the time to develop the same level of artwork for our cave applications. I knew that if I took one of the rich worlds from a game, it would really show off the potential of the cave. I also knew that if I recreated a PC game, then it would be a familiar environment. People who came to visit would see something they had seen before, but from a brand new perspective, and it would show them the potential of VR. The first cave program that I made was actually Cave Doom. I wrote it as a grad student. It was a semester project for a VR class. In the end, the user could walk through the Doom levels from the first episode. I did add monsters and a rocket launcher. However, since these objects were actually sprites in the real game, I had to make my own 3D models for them, and as you can imagine, they looked really cheesy. Hey, I'm a programmer, not a modeler. After the Cave Doom project, I worked as a research assistant. Then I graduated and became a full-time staffer at the NCSA. The Cave Doom demo was popular, and I showed it to a lot of people. Then my younger brother Luke came to visit, and his reaction was, hey, this is cool, but Quake would be better. And I agreed. I wrote the game engine using Performer, which is an SGI scene graph API built on top of OpenGL. There were two main reasons for doing this. First, I wanted to learn Performer, and second, Rick Weinrock from Paradigm Simulation had already done some work loading Quake II files into the Performer format. I took his loaders, improved them, and made them work with the Cave library. The Cave library allows you to develop Cave applications more easily. With the loaders, I was able to load Quake II models and look at them in the Cave. Next, I started working on the game engine. Essentially, I had taken the data from the real game, but I wrote the entire game engine from scratch. The reason why I did this is that the interaction in the Cave is fundamentally different than a regular game interface. Even if I had the real engine to work with, much of it would probably have to be rewritten anyway for the Cave. For instance, in QUAKE II, you can point the gun independent of where you're looking, much like in real life. It took me about 3 months in my free time to get the basic engine running. However, I've been adding more and more features to the engine ever since. Now you can play either single player or one-on-one deathmatch against someone in another cave. I've had the chance to show the demo to many people, including gaming legends like Mike Poulos of Descent fame and president of Volition, Ed Boon of Mortal Kombat, and Mike Abrash of Quake I. Their reaction was very positive. I remember that Ed Boon was kneeling down close to a virtual ledge. He accidentally fell off and it scared him. He fell over onto the floor and was laughing. Mike Poulos came back 2 more times. Once he brought his entire company, Volition, with him to see it. He came again when I showed it to Abrash. In general, everybody loves it. Most of the cave sites in the world are running the demo. There's something to be said for seeing the monsters from Quake II in life size. A tank monster is a lot more intimidating when he is standing right in front of you and your head is barely above his waist. The deathmatch is awesome. Imagine a rocket that flies right into your face. It's hard not to flinch. I've seen older people trying to dodge bullets. It's pretty funny.
The function is not to explain it carefully enough so one would be able to walk up to it and use it. There'll be lots of details ignored. But by explaining it to some degree of detail to give a concept of how it works. First of all, it's a compact way of saying what it is to say
these 3 walls may not look like much, but we're actually at the intersection of art and technology. I'm Victoria Laubman at the UIC's Electronic Visualization Lab, and we'll watch this. What you're seeing is part of a three-dimensional virtual reality environment called the Cave. The Electronic Visualization Lab, or EVL, at University of Illinois at Chicago brings computer art students and engineering students together to create works of interactive art.
Well, welcome to the Cave. These glasses allow you to see in stereo. So when we put these on, we'll be able to see in stereo like a stereo movie. But since it's virtual reality, we also are in control. We can move and see new worlds, like over here. Oh! Now you're in a waterfall.
What's that?
Stick your wand
That
over the
is
waterfall.
wild. Look at, I'm going into a cube. I feel like I'm in Twilight Zone.
Probably the most interesting thing about virtual reality is the fact that you're seeing your viewpoint on the world and not somebody else's. It's the first redefinition of perspective since the Renaissance.
Since its development in 1992, the Cave has been used both as an artistic medium and as a tool for scientists and engineers.
Scientists use it to visualize their data, to gain insight from numbers. They have supercomputers and instruments that generate huge piles of numbers, and by visualizing those numbers, they're able to understand the phenomenon they want to understand.
In recent years, researchers, designers, and artists have employed computer graphics to create images they once had to draw by hand. Now, new animation programs create graphics that just a few years ago could only be imagined. We get more on this story from CNN's Margaret Lowry.
Computer graphics galore. Walk through them.
Now you can move the table wherever you want to take it.
Interact with them. Bond with them. At SIGGRAPH 92 in Chicago this week, the premier trade show for graphic artists, designers, researchers to display their wares, pioneering technologies breaching new frontiers, from simple to surrealistic. In this virtual reality cave, for example, created by University of Illinois researchers, you can walk through a snowstorm by combining projection and virtual reality.
You are inside the model and you can sense everything. It's like an out-of-body experience. You're just floating around and it's almost like it's right in front of you.
Kind of like looking into the Viewmaster stereo things, except for the fact that it moves around with you. Things don't look like little cardboard planes, but you really feel like they're in the space with you.
Many people use computers in the service of other media, which is perfectly fine. They use computers to make better photographs, or to make video, to make television. But I've always been interested in doing things with computers that you can't do in any other medium. For instance, this rich interactive experience can't be done in any other medium.
The Cave Virtual Reality Theater is a projection-based system. The illusion of immersion is created by projecting stereoscopic computer graphics into a 10-foot cube made of screens that completely surround the viewer. Viewers explore virtual environments by walking in the cave space. Head and hand tracking systems produce the correct perspective projection from the user's point of view and determine the position and orientation of a handheld device we call the wand. This device is used for control and interaction with the virtual world. An audio system is also used and provides sound feedback. The current implementation of the cave has 4 screens, 3 surrounding walls, and a floor. Each side of the cube has an associated Electro-Home projector and a Crimson Reality Engine workstation from Silicon Graphics. Mirrors are used to fold the optics to reduce the space required between the projectors and screens. Stereographics LCD shutter glasses provide stereo viewing. The tracking systems are a Polimas IsoTrack and Ascension Technologies Flock of Birds. The audio system includes a sampler with a MIDI interface and 6 speakers. The entire cave system is controlled by a Silicon Graphics Personal Iris. The cave is a non-intrusive interface where reality and virtual reality are combined naturally. Wearing lightweight LCD shutter glasses, users can see themselves and their real surroundings blended with the virtual environment. Interaction with the virtual environment is done with the wand. Its controls and functions depend on the needs of each particular application. In this application, we can see how it is used as a navigation device.
Although they never mention this in any of the literature, I believe that to properly enter a cave of QUAKE II, one has to take certain steps ahead of time. I'm ready to enter the cave. So I'm playing Quake 2. The map right now is the pit. It's tied 6-6. And I had a deep thought after listening to Fresh Air today, which is Tuesday, May 15th. Terry Gross interviewed Michael Pollan and his new book. He usually writes about food, like The Omnivore's Dilemma or Eat Less Meat or whatever. Very good advice. Is about tripping on psychedelic drugs as like a medicine for people with terminal illness to get over depression, for those that have a life-threatening addiction. And Michael Pollan evidently took acid, mushrooms, ayahuasca, and other psychedelic agents. And Terry Gross was asking him about it in such a way, and I mean, it is very interesting, that it sounded a little bit like she wanted to go on a trip herself. So I guess in a therapy setting, when a psychedelic is administered as medicine, one of the instructions to the recipient is that if approached by any menacing monster or negative force or energy, that rather than run to face whatever that entity is, confront it and say, "What can I learn from you?" And after having listened to that, I wanted to ask the computer voice a question.
What do you have to learn from me? How about a quote ascribed to Joseph Campbell? The cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. How about you learn that, stoner Quake guy?
Nothing more will I teach you today. Clear your mind of questions.
There's something not right. I feel cold.
That place is strong, but the dark side of the Force, a domain of evil it is. And you must go.
What's in there?
Only what you take with you. Your weapons. You will not need them.
You go in there, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's completely dark. It's cold and dank. You're banging your head on projections all the time. And it was a place of fear. And the boys were to overcome all that and go into the womb of the earth. And the shaman, or whoever it was that would be helping you through, would not be making it easy.
And then there was a release once you got into that vast torchlit chamber down there. What was the tribe? What was the tradition trying to say to the boy?
That is the womb land from which all the animals come. And the rituals down there have to do with the generation of a situation that will be propitious for the hunt. And the boys were to learn not only to hunt, but how to respect the animals and what rituals to perform, and how in their own lives, no longer to be little boys, but to be men. Because those hunts were very, very dangerous hunts, believe me. And these are the original men's right sanctuaries where the boys became no longer their mother's sons, but their father's sons.
Don't you wonder what effect this had on a boy?
Well, you can go through it today, actually, in cultures that are still having the initiations of young boys. They give them an ordeal, a terrifying ordeal that the youngster has to survive. Makes a man of him, you know.
Journey into space. Explore bundles of nerve fibers in a human brain, or fly through a bridge before it's built. This is Cave 2, located at the University of Illinois at Chicago. 8-foot walls of video screens envelop a viewer in a 3D virtual world. The first cave was built in 1992. They've been improving it ever since.
So it really gives us a tool to understand human behavior and how we can understand the world and see it from a different perspective.
What's that? Good enough to run it. I'm running a quad-core Black Dog.
Yeah, that'd be perfect for that.
RX 480 with 8 gig of RAM.
That'd probably work.